Natasha,
Debbie,
show.
the show.
Welcome to it. Just two patriotic girls.
Learning about the world.
So please, don't take us the wrong way.
Hello, welcome to the Natasha and Debbie show.
This is our first official video of 2024.
So we want to wish you all a good new year. Hopefully it's all going very well for you.
Yeah. And hello, Norway and Sweden. How cool is this?
I know. We're going to look at both countries today.
Yeah. So I'm really excited about this one. Before we get into the video, if you could get into the like button, we'd appreciate it. And she's going to kill me if I say it.
Consider subscribing to our channel. We are on our way to 100,000 subscribers, and we want you to be a part of that.
It would really not work without you, and it would be sad without you.
It would be.
It's free too. So today's video, we're excited about this one. It's called Norway and Sweden Compared. I hope it's not like trying to do one's better than the other thing, because we don't like that. We don't play that game on the Natasha and Debbie show. But we've done a little bit of content on Norway. We've done a little bit of content on Sweden.
That's right. And today we're just going to see how the two compare side by side.
Yeah, because they are kind of side by side. And we are going to compare them.
Let's get into the video.
Deal.
Norway and Sweden, or officially, the Kingdom of Norway and the Kingdom of Sweden, two magnificent bordering countries in Northern Europe. Both are Nordic countries. Heck, both are in Scandinavia. Wait, what's the difference between Nordic and Scandinavian?
I don't know.
Well, these parts of the world are all considered Nordic, while just these countries are considered part of Scandinavia. Although you could also just say, quote, Scandinavia is made up of the countries located on the Scandinavian peninsula. Well, would you look at that? Norway and Sweden make up the vast majority of the Scandinavian peninsula.
I didn't
Anyway,
understand that.
yes,
That was
both
helpful.
Sweden and Norway have a long shared history with strong cultural linguistic ties. Both are separated by a 1,630 kilometer border that meets up in the north, believe it or not, with Finland's border at a point called the three-country cairn. No, not Karen. Cairn. A cairn is a human pile of rocks meant to mark something, but this one is special. It's basically a little monument made of concrete, and it is now on my bucket list to visit it.
That's cool.
Dadgummit. Anyway,
That would be
Norway
cool.
and
He said
Sweden are
dadgummit.
two of the wealthiest countries in the world. Both rank really high on nearly every quality of life ranking list. Both have very low poverty. In fact, even low compared to much of the rest of Europe. That's probably a big reason why both consistently rank high on the World Happiness Report each year. By the way,
You know, as we've been looking at the countries up there, I have always wondered that because they always say the happiest country in the world. So,
I think Finland too, though. I've seen
yeah,
Finland.
and they say that about Finland too. So that's quite interesting.
It is.
this year Sweden ranks number 7 and Norway ranks number 8 on
Really?
it. But how are they both so happy when both don't get much sunlight for half of the
They have a lot
year?
of
Well,
eating.
here may be a few reasons why. First of all, both are generally safe places to be, although Norway has less crime overall. Related to this, both have high societal trust. Basically, most residents of both countries trust each other, man, whether they actually know each other or not. Both have strong welfare systems. More specifically, both have versions of universal health care. Related to this, both have a really high life expectancy. Both have generous maternity and paternity leave policies. Both countries offer free daycare, free preschool
Nice.
programs, and free college. Now,
Nice.
obviously, all of this great stuff isn't technically, quote,
I was gonna
free.
say,
It's paid
taxes.
for by taxes, and residents of both are taxed more than residents of most other countries in the world. That
I want to fish. She's fishing.
Yeah, I know. That's such a beautiful.
That's
photo
what I
there.
would do in Norway. It's also what I would do in Sweden and Finland.
Exactly.
That
Get out
looks-
into nature.
Oh, I wonder if we could find a video on like the different types of fish. Would you guys have an interest in that? Because I would.
I would.
We both love to fish.
Uh-huh.
Debbie's better than I am,
Just
but I was.
because I've caught the bigger fish.
Yeah, but I think I'd been
That'd be
doing it
sad.
longer. I like since I was young.
I don't know. I've been alive longer, so I think I've been doing it longer.
I started it younger. No one cares. Sorry. What are your favorite fish to catch in either Norway and or Sweden? Would love to know.
Interesting.
And residents of both are taxed more than residents of most other countries in the world. That said, Norway has lower taxes than Sweden overall. In my opinion, high taxes are not a reason to be happy, but most of both countries seem okay paying those taxes. The cultural practices, as well as economic and social policies of...
Are we going to pretend like we don't know what that is up there?
I was just about to say, what is that?
What's
is
that little yellow
cab,
thing?
A bus? We have not seen this.
I want one. I want to drive. Wait. That looked like the one mail thing we saw in, was that Sweden? I'm getting a little confused.
It might be.
But that's not what that is. What is that?
I don't know. Let us know in the comments.
Please.
Both countries are often called part of the, quote, Nordic model, which not only includes a broad guarantee of certain public services, but also includes having strong unions, collective bargaining, and social corporatism. Social corporatism, aka social democratic corporatism, is basically a partnership between the workers and those who own the capital. It's not so one-sided like it is in most other countries, with the interests of capital having most of the power over the labor. Both countries have unitary parliamentary constitutional monarchies.
See,
that was a mouthful. And yep, both have had royal families going back more than 1,000 years. Oh yeah, let's get into some history. Cool beans? Humans have lived on the Scandinavian peninsula as far back as maybe 14,000 years ago. We have lots of artifacts that show the peninsula was thriving during the Bronze Age.
Wow.
But then the climate started changing and many started migrating. After this, many of them regularly interacted in productive ways and counterproductive ways with the Roman Empire to the south. By the early Middle Ages, a group had emerged on the peninsula known as the Norse. Yes, Vikings. No, there is no evidence that Vikings really wore horned helmets.
I've heard that.
And not all of them were warriors, but yes, they took to the sea, out to explore and often conquer, becoming expert sailors and navigators in their long ships. They raided, pirated, but also traded, so it wasn't all bad, okay? What's known as the Viking Age lasted approximately between the 700s and the Norman conquest of England in 1066. By that time, the Kingdom of Norway was a thing. No one knows for sure when the Kingdom of Sweden was actually born.
Really?
Beginning in the 1100s, the population of Scandinavia began to dramatically increase. This lasted until, you guessed it, the Black Death, which killed at least a third of the population. Also a problem during this time were Christians coming up trying to convert the Norse into Christianity, but the Norse were generally not too keen on giving up their own religious traditions. A bunch of those unique Stav churches were built during this time. Most of the few that remain today are in Norway. In 1397, Sweden and Norway joined forces as part of the...
No, I'm pausing it. I've been wanting to for like 2 minutes. I was just thinking, we've done the Geography Now videos on both Norway and Sweden. But little refresher course on some of it, but a lot of things too, I feel like we did not, I don't recall learning here. So this is a cool video.
It definitely is.
If you're liking this, please hit that like button and consider subscribing to the channel. And please, if you're in Norway, if you're in Sweden, say hi. Did he say Stav churches?
In Norway. In 1397, Sweden and Norway joined forces as part of the Kalmar Union. The two kingdoms shared a monarch, along with the Kingdom of Denmark, off and on until 1523. Sweden broke away that year under the leadership of Gustav Vasa, who helped bring the Protestant Reformation to Sweden, breaking away from Roman Catholic rule and nationalizing their holdings. Today, he's often considered the father of modern Sweden. Meanwhile, Norway stayed with Denmark. During the 30 Years' War, Norway and Sweden found themselves fighting each other. Sweden played a significant role in that bloody war, famously under the leadership of Gustavus Adolphus. The Swedes basically...
When did a lot of people in Sweden migrate from Sweden? Like around this time period? Like, well, not necessarily this time period, but you and I both looked up our ancestry, and we've said it before. We both have Sweden and Denmark ancestry DNA per Ancestry.com, which was a shock to me. I never heard that. And mine is the second highest of my ancestry DNA, next to my English ancestry, my British ancestry. So I'm just curious, because I don't have a clue when any of my family would have come over. Now, my family's Protestant, so when I hear those things about, you know, Catholics and Protestants and fightings, I wonder, is that maybe when my family might have, you know, jumped ship, went somewhere else? Or I don't know. So if anyone knows, like when the most Americans, like at an earlier time of modern times, in I don't know what 500 years or so,
Mm-hmm.
came over towards other places or even into the U.S.
Yeah, that's a good question.
I would be interested to know because I'm trying to trace that back and find out who the heck, who was it,
Mhm.
where, and what family member, what surname. I don't know.
True.
So hopefully that made sense. If it didn't, I'm sorry.
Saved the Protestant cause and weakened the Habsburg Catholic coalition. And there were also multiple direct wars between Denmark, Norway, and Sweden
Yes, there were.
throughout the 1600s. The last wars ended by 1660, and after some treaties, we got much of the modern borders of Norway and Sweden.
Okay.
For the rest of the 1600s and into the 1700s, Sweden was a great European power. This is when they began to establish colonies around the world. That said, it had mostly an agricultural economy and ultimately lacked the resources to stay a world power for too long. Sweden and Norway once again found themselves at war with each other in the Great Northern War, which lasted from 1700 to 1721. This war actually ended with the defeat of Sweden, and Sweden quickly lost its world power status as well as some of its territory after this. But at least this marked their sweet age of liberty, a time of increased civil rights and democracy and stuff. Jump ahead to the Napoleonic Wars, which also shook up things quite a bit in Scandinavia. As a result of those wars, Sweden lost more land to Russia, and Norway was forced into a union with Sweden. Norway and Sweden together again. They shared a monarch for the next 91 years. Throughout the rest of the 1800s, tough times led to hundreds of thousands of both Norwegians and Swedes moving to settle in the Midwestern United States.
I think that would help to answer your question.
Yeah, sorry. What's interesting about that, though, is the map, that arrow, that big blue arrow, right at the end of that arrow is pointing directly to Cincinnati, Ohio, where we live. Did you notice that?
Yes, I did.
And which is Midwestern. But 1800s, that can't be. My family was already here.
Yeah, you were already here.
Both sides of my family, mom and dad, right? I've traced them back enough that they were here forever. Like my roots in America are long and deep.
Yes, they are.
So I don't think this is it. No, I don't. I think it was way before then.
It's hard to say. I mean, that kind
I
of
think it's before then.
research
Yeah. Well, it's easier to find records from the 1800s, right?
Of course it is.
So, like I know my mom's side of the family, on one side of her family, I can trace back to the Mayflower Compact, which is pretty cool.
That's amazing.
But that happens in pointing right to Cincinnati almost.
I know.
And it's interesting. But yeah, I don't think this is it, unfortunately. So that question still remains. Oh, that's interesting.
States, and you still see that legacy today, believe me.
Yeah,
Still
Minnesota
by the
Vikings.
early 1900s, both Sweden and Norway had begun modernizing. Well,
I just put that together.
You just put together
I am
Minnesota
that
Vikings.
slow. Yeah, American football, the Minnesota Vikings. I'm an idiot.
That's why we do this channel. We love learning with you.
I didn't even think about that. We know that most people that have come to America from Norway and Sweden
They're up north.
go to Minnesota, specifically that state, and then
And hence we have the football team, the Vikings.
especially Sweden. Both countries stayed mostly neutral in both World War I and World War II.
I was surprised to find
Germany
that out.
invaded and occupied Norway during the Second World War, but not Sweden. In fact, most of the refugees who fled the Nazis from Norway ended up in Sweden. Between the end of World War I and 1935, Norway had some instability with 9 different governments. After World War II, Norway helped start the United Nations, and Sweden was one of the earliest countries to join. During the Cold War, Norway joined NATO, Sweden did not. But after Russia's recent invasion of Ukraine, it's looking like Sweden will in fact be joining NATO soon. In recent years, oil and good investments have helped Norway's economy zoom right past Sweden's. Today, both are 2 of the most democratic countries in the world. In fact, according to the Economist Intelligence Unit, Norway ranks #1 on the Democracy Index, and Sweden ranks #4. Most of both countries are sparsely populated. Most of the population of both
oh, come on, man. Okay, let me find that spot.
Most of both countries are
right there. Can we just say how beautiful both countries are? They are so freaking gorgeous.
Yes, the grass is so green and the air, it just looks absolutely like a place you just want to go hang out.
I want to come. I was good. Well, no, that's not what I want to do. I want to come running through the fields and do a little Sound of Music spin around and sing the song. Both countries. I take a moment to appreciate the beauty.
Are sparsely populated. Most of the population of both live either in the southern portions or along the coasts. People live even
Makes
way
sense.
up here, yo. The biggest cities
Yo.
in both are also the capital cities. Both are growing at about the same rate. Both have areas north of the Arctic Circle, for crying out loud. A third of Norway is actually north of the Arctic Circle. Up here, they get the midnight sun in the summer with daylight nearly at all hours of the day, but they also get the polar night in the winter where it's dark all day. But at least in the winter, they have a great chance of seeing the northern lights, which, holy crap, look at that. Yeah, that's also on my bucket list to one day see the northern lights. Both have milder climates compared to many other areas at similar latitudes. This is due to the temperate waters of the Gulf Stream. Both have historically not had to worry about major natural disasters as much as most other countries in the world. Due to something called post-glacial rebound, the land in both countries is still rising. Therefore, both are continuously gaining land rising from the sea. The cloud of...
Well, hold on. That's fascinating. Why? What's going on? He just told us. Okay. That's a lot to take in. I was taking a minute to, okay, whoa.
Yeah.
Interesting. And also, I paused this on a freaking gorgeous place.
You sure did. I mean, look at that.
Where is this? Which country is this?
I don't think he said.
I want a postcard from there.
Right? I just want to live there. Right there on the bridge.
She wants to be a bridge person.
Not under the bridge, on the bridge.
You want to be a bridge person?
Next to the bridge. Yeah, I'll be a bridge person.
That is beautiful. I don't know where this is. I'm rewinding that. I don't know if he said.
Both are continuously gaining land rising from the sea. The Klarälven River flows through both. Both have tens of thousands of islands. Sweden's largest island is Gotland, right there in the Baltic Sea. Norway's largest island is Spitsbergen, which is part of its archipelago way up here called Svalbard. Around 3,000 folks live up in this unincorporated area that's pretty much near the top of the world. The biggest town there, Longyearbyen, is the world's northernmost settlement with at least a population of 1,000. Located there is the Svalbard Global Seed Vault, which will eventually store...
Did we hear about this?
We had heard about it, but I was interested. Would you guys want us to do a video specifically on this?
I did hear about it for a moment.
Yeah, we did, and we just didn't go back and take a deeper dive into that.
I like diving deeper.
Let us know if you want us to do a video on
She wants to know if you want us to dive deeper in the vault.
Store billions of seeds in case of, world catastrophe. By the way, if you really want to learn a lot about Svalbard, I highly recommend Cecilia Blomda's YouTube channel. She does a phenomenal job highlighting this amazing place. Anyway, both Norway and Sweden have freedom to roam laws, which means you can camp wherever you want without asking permission as long as it's not private property. Both are increasingly becoming more ethnically and religiously diverse in recent years. 1 out of 3 residents in Sweden have at least one parent born in a foreign country. The biggest religion in both is Christianity. That said, a sizable portion of the population have no religion at all. In fact, both are highly secular countries overall. That said, Sweden is the only Nordic country without a state church. Both countries spend a higher percentage of their GDP on education than most of the rest of the world. Both invest a lot in renewable energy. In fact, almost all energy in Norway comes from renewable energy sources, with hydropower making up the bulk of it. In the northern parts of both countries is the Sapmi region, traditionally settled by the Sami people, but now has a more diverse group living there. Sami culture is actually quite a well-known export out of both countries. Residents of both tend to be taller on average than people in most other countries in the world. Both have what's known as the Nordic model approach to prostitution, in which it's illegal to buy sex, but not to sell the use of one's own body for such services.
What?
The minimum...
I don't understand.
I don't understand that either.
And believe me, I was fully paying attention to that. I think we're going to need to rewind that. And you're better at retaining information. So grab onto this for a minute. Let's all take a moment and listen to this very carefully, because it sounded very contradictory.
model approach to prostitution, in which it's illegal to buy sex, but not to sell the use of one's own body for such services.
So not me. A person is legal to sell their body for sex, but it's illegal for another person to purchase it.
To buy that thing you have for sale.
Well, then you're out of a job. You can't do it if you can't get someone to buy it.
You can do it. You just can't get caught buying it.
Debbie, don't go. The Natasha and Debbie show does not.
We do not condone this activity in any
selling
way,
your
shape,
body or purchasing it from someone else.
This is true.
Okay, this is going to be edited out probably. No, I'm leaving it in. That was interestingly contradictory.
Yeah, that's such a contradiction there.
It is.
The minimum age to drink alcohol in both is 18, but not just any type of alcohol, so it's complicated.
Yeah, we've heard some differences on
A lot of bars and nightclubs in Sweden won't let you in until you're at least 20. Both are big rivals when it comes to cross-country skiing, apparently, but it's probably no surprise to you that winter sports tend to be pretty big in both countries.
Yeah, I ain't playing, guys.
Skiing, biathlon, yeah, the one that combines cross-country skiing and rifle shooting. Norway has won more medals in the Winter Olympics than any other country in the world. But in seventh place on the medals list is, good old Sweden. That all said, football, or seventh place on the medals list is,
we're number 2.
Oh, hey.
We're number 2.
That's pretty awesome.
That's surprising.
It is. Well, we have a lot of northern states that are, nice and cold and into cold weather stuff.
Good old Sweden. That all said, football, or soccer as us dumb Americans call it,
is
probably the most popular sport in both countries. And don't forget floorball, baby. Both are known for their Scandinavian folklore. You know, stuff like trolls and elves, which apparently aren't real, I just found out. Both are also known for their heavy metal bands.
So weird.
Specifically in Norway, the influential black metal scene, and in Sweden, death metal, baby. Oh yeah, both are even in the same time zone. Dang, that was a lot of similarities. For the rest of the video, let's take a look at differences between the two. First of all, Sweden is bigger in land area. Oh yeah? Well, Norway has more coastline. A lot more coastline. Like more than 8 times as much.
Gee.
I remember the coastline paradox, buddy. Also, according to various sources, Norway may have anywhere between the 2nd and 7th longest coastline of all countries in the world. To the north, Norway borders the Barents Sea. To the west, the Norwegian Sea. To the south, the North Sea. Wait, that sounds weird. But yeah, just confirmed it. It's true. Sweden, meanwhile, borders the aforementioned Baltic Sea to the east. Oh, and there's the Gulf of Bothnia. Much of it is covered with sea ice in the winter. Sweden has around twice as many people. It also has a higher population density. Sweden also has bigger cities. It has 2 metropolitan areas with more than 1 million people, Stockholm and Gothenburg. Meanwhile, Norway has just one, Oslo. Now, this may surprise you a bit, but Swedes make up the biggest ethnic group in Sweden, and Norwegians make up the biggest ethnic group in Norway. This also might surprise you. The most common language in Sweden is Swedish, and the most common language in Norway is Norwegian. Yeah, the 2 languages are similar. Norway goes further north. In fact, it's Europe's most northern country, and it goes further east than Finland. Norway has overseas territories. Some of these are on the other side of the world. Sweden has a slightly milder climate overall. That said, both have an oceanic climate in their southern portions, and continental and subarctic climates throughout most of the rest of their countries. And yes, both have some tundra where there's higher altitudes. Norway has more mountains. While the Scandinavian mountains run through both countries, most of the range runs through Norway, and this is where you get the highest and more dramatic peaks. Much of Sweden is actually just gently rolling lowlands. Sweden has a lower cost of living. Yep, it's generally cheaper to live there, but that makes sense as Norway has both a higher GDP per capita and higher average household income. Major industries industries in Norway include petroleum, natural gas, shipping, and fishing. Major industries in Sweden include machinery, motor vehicles, telecommunications, and pharmaceuticals. Norway is well known for its beautiful fjords, which are long, narrow, and deep trenches between high cliffs filled with water. Most were formed by ancient glaciers. Dang, look at that. Nice. Yeah, Norway has more fjords than any other country in the world. That said, Sweden has some fjords too. Look at that. Norway is also known for its dramatic waterfalls. Sweden is more forested and has more farmland. Norway gets more precipitation overall. Sweden spans 14 degrees of latitude. Norway, 13 degrees. Sweden has 25 provinces. Norway has 11 counties. The median age is higher in Sweden. Residents of Sweden tend to be less religious. In fact, more than half of Swedes identify as non-religious. More people in Sweden live in cities. Norway generally has faster internet speeds. Marijuana is legal for medicinal purposes in Norway, but completely illegal in Sweden. So as I briefly brought up earlier, Norway has huge oil reserves, and that's a big reason why it's such a wealthy country. But it also has used that oil money to start a massive pension fund that benefits its citizens. Way to go, Norway. One of my favorite stores, actually the largest furniture store in the world, IKEA, started in Sweden, and it's actually a great place to get a small sample of Nordic culture and make videos like this.
It's just in the right place.
While nearly all residents of both countries celebrate Christmas, in Sweden, many apparently have a tradition of watching Donald Duck cartoons on Christmas Eve. Norway has the highest numbers of electric cars per person in the world. In fact, 9 in 10 cars currently sold in Norway are either electric or hybrid. And don't get mad, bro, but in my humble opinion, better music comes out of Sweden. Before I do make any more of you mad, I better wrap this motion picture up. In conclusion, it's obvious that Norway and Sweden are two of the most beautiful and prosperous countries on the planet. They've also both greatly influenced the rest of the world. That said, maybe not enough? Perhaps the rest of us would benefit more if we paid more attention to them and learned from their success. I guess that's a big reason why I made this video.
That was really cool.
I like the way that they put them side by side so that we could get the information right there.
They did a good job with that. That was actually really interesting to me. So, like I said, we learned some of these things from the Geography Now videos we did, and then a little bit from a couple other things. But there's a lot more we learned here. I learned a lot more here than I thought than I probably did from some of the others. But like you said, putting them side by side, it's really cool to see that. I think he was kind of reaching for the differences really hard.
Yeah, sometimes I wasn't getting where he was getting those differences from, like comparing this, but then something totally unrelated.
It just seemed weird, like the weird things to like bring up at the end. It's like, okay, I'm not sure that that's really that relevant to bring up as a difference.
Hey, he did point out some differences, and he pointed out some similarities too, which was very nice.
Yeah, but again, I come back to the same thing I'm going to keep saying. They are both such beautiful countries. The people we've gotten to speak with from both countries have been really kind, really sweet, really nice.
Absolutely fabulous.
Yeah, and there's so many more places in both. Like he said, Norway's going to have more of the fjords and mountains and waterfalls, and Sweden's going to be more like forests. And I happen to love a forest. I happen to love a waterfall. So you got me.
I love both of them.
I'm bought and sold. Aren't bought and sold. I'm bought by both countries. I have a strong interest in them both, and they're both just absolutely gorgeous. And you can't say one's better than the other. I don't think that's fair.
No, I don't think so at all. I think that they're both gorgeous places, like you said.
Yeah, and they have a lot to offer.
I would be honored to go to either one of them.
Yeah, but both would be pretty much
going to both. I mean, you're right there.
Yeah, I'd be happy with both. Like, I wouldn't want to pick. I wouldn't want to go to one without the other. You're right there.
Absolutely.
And I hope people don't. I'm sure they do.
But we need to go to that marker in the beginning, and we'll just walk around all three.
In Finland too?
Been there.
Why not? If you guys like this episode, please, again, hit that like button. Consider subscribing to the channel. Don't forget it's free to subscribe and helps out all the channels that you watch on YouTube more than you have any idea, trust me. Again, let us know anything. I wonder how he did with his pronunciation. I'm worried that we're going to have a lot of comments of, you got it.
I'm sure he struggled. It's
not easy.
The names are very hard to pronounce.
It's not easy, but let us know how he did. If you got anything you think is wrong, inaccurate, something you feel like he should have definitely put on the list, please put it in the comments for us to read. We'd love to learn from you. You guys are our best teachers, so we thank you for that. And again, thanks for watching. Thanks for being here. We appreciate you. And we'll see you back on the next episode of the Tasha and Debbie Show in just a couple days. Until then, please love like jazz.
Be as strong as Tyson.
Bye, guys.
Bye.